Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sports for All podcast with me, your host, Eden. So, I've got another great guest today. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hey, Eden, great to be here. Thank you. Firstly, thank you for having me. Hopefully, I live up to the invitation. And so, I'm Paul Jenkins. I'm the founder and CEO of League Leaders Charity.
Amazing. Thank you, Paul. Great to have you. So, do you want to tell us a bit about your sports background and how you got involved?
Well, I'll try to keep this short, but my specific sport is basketball. So, I've been playing since the age of 7. I actually got into basketball. Um, a lot to do with basketball video games and the creative side of the sport. I'm absolutely obsessed with trading cards, memorabilia, the sneakers. I went to Cubs when I was younger. I never really was interested in the camping and all that side of things, but I won 2 badges. One was the collector and one was the sport. And the collector was all just my basketball stuff. So I just turned up with a black bin bag and just dumped everything on a table. And it ranged from everything from all those things I said, Lego models, you name it. And then the sportsman from sort of doing coaching, etc., as a basketball player. So that got me into it, and I've been hooked ever since. I still play today. I've had an ACL injury. I've had a frozen shoulder injury. I never made it past National League. So I've had ups and downs in terms of sort of playing the sport, but basketball essentially saved me from things happening earlier on in my life. What I've learned from the sport, now being in a position to run a charity, and I guess we'll talk about it, but support amazing, brilliant young people like yourself. It's basketball that's taught me those skills. And as I get a little bit older and maybe not as quick, the passion for it doesn't change. And I've played in male groups with mixed groups. During COVID, I supported and played with a trans and non-binary group. Just found myself literally after hours, after the sessions, just literally for 2, 3 hours, just working with individuals just to help them with their jump shot, their layup. And you kind of like lose track of time when it comes to basketball. That's a snapshot of basketball in my life.
Amazing. Thank you so much. No, it's definitely sounds like it's been such a great journey. And obviously, you've learned a lot from it as well. And it's given you so much joy. You can just like hear it when you talk about it, like in your voice, like how passionate you are. So I love that. So my next question is, what have been some like big achievements for you in basketball?
I think first of all, maybe my big achievement. Actually, some people say to me that almost it surprised them that the fact that I'm still engaged with it just as a casual player, fanatic. I'm a level 1 coach in the sport as well, so I can coach sort of 18 or below. So probably that is what, so maybe we wouldn't call it achievement as such. Like that for me is kind of a big thing of, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter sort of where it takes you. Like sport should always remain a part of your life, and I feel very lucky to have found a particular sport that has always just sort of stuck with me. I think going back to when I was a bit younger, where as I was sort of leaving school and sort of forced the school to actually support my passion of basketball. We had these 6 matches and I was MVP for every single one. There was a boys versus girls match. The boys team won. I got MVP of that. So little accolades like that. And I think kind of as I moved into a sort of an academy setting, I played with the West Herts Warriors. So yeah, shout out to Tony, my coach, who supported me through that, and kind of being part of an academy, and that kind of progress, and getting on the minibus, going to play games around London, around Brentwood, Essex, all different areas. I really love that kind of that team environment. And then I guess more recently, before my ACL injury, I was running a team, just kind of casual, but you know, designing the kit for that team, that was fun. And then actually, to be honest, kind of coming back from that ACL injury and actually having that resilience to, follow about nine months worth of recovery, and loving it even more, and saying what's just recently happened on my shoulder. So um my team, Philadelphia 76ers, especially this season, not doing so well. So a team I follow, we could do better in terms of achievements. But I think as well, also just basketball seems to have its way of kind of how people connect to it. And in the UK, it's nowhere near funded what it should be. I believe it's the second most popular team sport, community level, behind football. All the people I play with, men, women, younger, older, there's such a mix of people. And if I can kind of do my part to raise the game of sport, and obviously kind of now running a charity for young people, hopefully not too distant future, we can start doing some basketball work as well. So yeah, maybe in summary, just survival, keep on playing. And I mean, I've got some very cool trading cards. I've got some gold plated Michael Jordan cards. Like, it's a big achievement, just hanging on to those. They're probably not worth anything, but to me, they're worth everything.
You never know, they could be worth something in the future.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
You could be sitting on like a millionaire.
I unfortunately sold all my Charizards, my Pokemon cards when I was a bit younger for a good price at the time, but I wish I hang on to those a little bit more now, but that's okay.
Oh, um, that's really great. Thank you. There's quite like a diverse range of like achievements within that, so that's really interesting. So kind of moving on, do you want to tell us a bit about League Leaders and like what it's all about and like how young people can maybe get involved as well? Do a little plug for me.
So what is Legally? So yeah, we're a charity working across the UK, supporting 14 to 24-year-olds. That's our age group. And it was actually a young person who coined the term breakthrough. He said, "You're helping me break through into the world of sport." So for us, it's helping young people. On one side, it's about getting them into physical activity and all the benefits of that. Some I've just told you. In the middle, our sort of second area is all around real world programs and projects to help other young people be active, which not is necessarily all about playing sport. So we're working on a magazine at the minute. We've done a toy. We've done schools programs, but young people given that responsibility to help others. And then on our third area, it's all about creating paid work and driving careers for young people within the sports sector. So we've just finished a program that's created 16 paid roles for young people across 5 organizations, one of which actually it wasn't meant to be, but actually through some funding, it was one for League Leaders, which is fantastic. And I'll plug you in a second, Eden, don't worry. And everything we do is led and designed by young people because they know best. And we're led by their needs, and we combine that with design and creativity. So I am a CEO of a charity. I told you about how I got into sport, and it was that design, visual, creative side. And so I'm a designer as well. So amongst other things, I'm the guy who made the logo, and there's all sorts of other stuff happening. But it's that design creativity piece means that we can really adapt to what we need to do. And it's making sure that young people's voices are not only heard, but they're listened to. And then crucially, young people are given those opportunities to design what they want to change. So we say to young people, look, so this is what do you want to change? I want to change X. Okay, go make it. They might have a mild panic. So they'll be like, nobody else gives me the opportunity. And then we'll support them through that process. So obviously, Eden, you are one of our brilliant young people that we support. And personally, I feel very privileged to be working and learning from you as much as hopefully somewhere around a minimum of 1% in your life of what we're trying to do to help you and what you're doing. Like, to be honest, this podcast, I love stuff like this because you're running a podcast, you're interviewing me. This is exactly how it should be. This podcast is about as much as your story. You can say, well, there's a brilliant young person called Eden who's running this thing, and we know her. In terms of how can young people get involved, so our website, League, check that out first of all. So you can also get involved with Coaches Corner, which is what you're also part of, Eden. So that's our UK-wide youth network. So it's basically the brain trust of the charity. It's the bosses of the charity, ultimately. Like, I'm accountable to you. We invite every young person who we support if they want to get involved, and members will get one-to-one support, group support, paid opportunities, training, and everything else in between. So we're building the bridge as we're running across it. You're in Northern Ireland. We've got young people in South London, some in Stoke, some in Manchester, some in Bradford, Norwich, you name it. And it's kind of like connecting everybody up. It's internally led by young people and then externally delivering for young people. You can also follow us on social media as well. So league.leaders on Instagram and on TikTok. And if you're on LinkedIn as well, you can find us there. So sort of reach out, say hello. That's a sort of a short way. And then I guess keep an eye out for our programs and opportunities as well. And you can also speak to Eden directly because Eden will tell you how to get involved as well. So pitch over, but hopefully that gives an overview. It's a good pitch. It's a good product we're selling as such. So it's we're changing lives. So I'm allowed to pitch it, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know for me, it's been amazing. I think I've nearly been involved like a year now, which is really crazy. But it's been such a great way to like meet other young people and like stay involved in sport because obviously I'm not really able to do that at the minute. So it's great. And also this podcast kind of stemmed from League Leaders in a way as well. I mean, I was given the opportunity to host it, but I'm kind of felt quite disconnected from sport, and now I'm involved in League Leaders. And now I have this podcast. I feel more connected, so it's really great opportunity. And also
Can
we're creating a magazine. that's coming out. Like, not a lot of people can say that. Definitely would recommend getting involved, and I will put more information in the description for everybody to have a look. And I'll also link Leah's podcast because she was really good when she came on. So shout out to her.
I was just
Good.
also going to say to that point as well. So your your openness to talk about kind of your journey and your barriers, but also the things that those barriers have created for you. I guess we met possibly because of that. And I know you're a huge kind of person advocate for youth voice, for young people's decisions. So I think you're living proof of that sport and the world of sport and how it works in someone's life isn't a linear thing. It's not just about playing and coaching. And I know at one point you'll get back to what you need to, but I also suspect that when you get to that point, you're not going to just stop doing all this other stuff. And I think that's what I guess what we stand for as well, is just helping young people, like, see there's different ways. That elite pyramid is tiny and it's very hard to get there. It's achievable, it's hard, but if we flip that pyramid upside down, there's this whole world out there. So whether it's journalism and media, podcasting, whether it's going into C-level journeys, whether it's running a tech company, whether it's becoming just somebody behind the scenes who's supporting that person who is making it. So I think you're completely living proof of that, and it's a real inspiration to other young people. So kudos to you. I know you've said this before, and I've said it many times, so just to embarrass you on your own podcast, but it's important I say that to the listeners. So yeah, you get embarrassed.
Yeah, I am a bit. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you. Wow. Yeah. I don't even know how to follow that now. I guess we could talk about the skills because that kind of transfers nicely on from what we've been talking about. What kind of skills do you think young people learn from sport that maybe help them with career, uni, that kind of thing?
I guess I'm kind of paraphrasing young people rather than just my story. I'm paraphrasing, if that's the right term. What young people have said to me about their journeys. I think resilience, the ability to bounce back, the ability to deal with both the good unexpected and the bad unexpected, for me is just the single thing that sport can give you. And it can become as sort of simple as dropping a catch or falling over. Simple things that sport can do to think, do you know what, I'm going to try harder to catch that ball next time, or I'm going to just double check my steps next time I fall over. And obviously it spans right the way through to kind of, if you're losing or you're injured. But I guess for young people listening who are like apprehensive about how does sport fit in my life, I think what it can give you is just that sort of learning experience that not a lot of other things can give you. You can try stuff out. You can take a long walk. It's about movement. It's not necessarily about trying to become a professional player. So I think the idea of resilience and undoubtedly it's just life things you'll face. So it might be a job rejection. It could be a family issue. It could be you've missed the bus and you've got to run to the next stop. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, I think what sport can give you is that sort of elasticity to bounce back. I also think that a second skill, if you sort of if you're open to it, I think what sport can give you is tenacity as well. It's not about being competitive and it's not about being sort of gung-ho, but I think with sport, so from my experience, it's allowed me to think, do you know what, like I need to get better at, in my case, putting a ball through a hoop, simple stats, right? With everything that you have to achieve in life. What I enjoy, as well as running the charity, is putting an orange ball through a net. It's kind of quite rudimentary if you think about it. And the idea that actually, how can I be better at doing that? Can I take a longer shot away? Can I do it quicker? Can I score more points? Can I help my teammates more? And it's kind of given me that sort of dog with a bone mentality where I set my mind to stuff and I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to do it and I'm going to fail and I'm going to get it wrong. But that's okay, because I'd rather be the person that tries it than just thinks, what if? And to be honest, the only person making judgments is yourself. And to be honest, who is judging? Obviously, it's easy to get swept up in kind of thinking people about what you're doing, but they're kind of in their lane at the end of the day as well. When all said and done, when all devices are off and everyone's at home, everyone's kind of thinking, actually, what have I done myself? So I think sport really can, if you can let it. I think that's almost like an optional. If you let it, it can really bring out that sort of tenacious side of you. And that's not about being arrogant. That's not being about being aggressive. It's just like it just it hardens you to think, you know what, I can take on anything. And then when you get something through that armor, you got that resilience to bounce back. So in a good way, a dangerous combination. I think that sport can give people. That's how I would sort of summarize sport right now, I'd say.
But I love the idea of like having that armor and like strength and like you said, like resilience to keep going, like especially when there's barriers and challenges that you face in life really, but also in sport. Which kind of segues quite nicely into my next question, which is what are some of the barriers that young people or people that you know might have faced in getting involved and also staying involved? I feel like that is a big thing as well.
So we actually yesterday we were with a brilliant group of girls for a new program that we're starting, and some of the themes which kind of come up sort of consistently. There's some quite practical stuff, and then there's some sort of stuff that obviously you can't just fix immediately. I think the first and foremost is the identity of where do I fit into this thing called sport. Like I go to school and there's PE and I'm told to play rounders or I'm told to kick a ball, but actually like where do I fit in? And I think first and foremost that's like the first barrier I would see from young people we support. I guess I was lucky that I sort of found that very, very early. And I appreciate that's not everyone's journey. But first of all, is like, where do I fit in? Like, do I like team sports? Do I want to be on my own? Am I just going to the gym? Like, do I like listening with music? Do I want to be in a group? Then I think the next kind of key barrier would be around access. So actually, you've sort of figured out, okay, so actually I really like, so in your case, Taekwondo. But if there's not a Taekwondo club nearby, what does that mean? Do you give up on that? Do you have to figure out something else? So accessing kind of not directly facilities, but the ability to sort of access the sport and the movement idea that you love as a individual. It's very individual. The top sports stars of the world, it's their choice that they made that. They might have had some influence, they might have got introduced to it, but they ultimately are the ones, it's their bodies, they're the ones that are choosing. So I think access. So where can I find it? Who can I do it with? Who can support me through that? At school, basketball wasn't nurtured. For me, I wasn't given a choice. That wasn't my choice. And I thought, yeah, but I don't want to do anything else. Like, yeah, I'm a massive football fan and I love sport generally, but like I'm terrible at football. I just don't want me on doing a team. Like I want to do basketball. So I had to find my community, my people outside of that system. But that's because I had that sort of tenacity. I was like, I've got to figure this out because it's not an option. So I'd say like, yeah, so where do I fit in? Access. And then I think there's some really practical, simple solutions. So regularly things like self-image, and that's not just talking about the girls yesterday, it's all genders. Self-image, kit, facilities, and I think judgment plays a huge part as well. And especially, we're supporting 14 to 24 and certainly that sort of 14 to 18 age group. As your body's changing, as your mind is changing, being told to wear something that you really don't feel comfortable in, it might be really practical, but it's just you don't feel comfortable. I think there's some really simple things that certainly as a charity we're trying to sort of change. And really so fun thing saying this, like a really simple idea that came up yesterday, and the brilliant teacher that's supporting on the program, the girls are talking about, well, if we've got kind of PE in first period, why do we have to come to school in our uniform? Why can't we just come to school in our kit? We do sport, we change into uniform, and then it kind of removes that barrier of that situation. And really sort of simple things there. And that was an initial hour session to kind of just a meet and greet with them before we kind of do the full program. And like, to me, that's a simple change that can really change that particular barrier. And then it has that knock-on effect to, well, actually now I feel it's more accessible because I can feel better at home before I come and be active, and therefore I'm maybe open to trying whatever it is that at school they're sort of suggesting or telling me to do. So that's almost a 5-hour conversation in itself of barriers. But I'd say identity, where do I fit in, access, and then it then is quite dependent on who we're sort of supporting. But those first two, I'd say, are the key ones.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think you're right. I think there is so many different obstacles. I know young people are trying to balance so much as well, so it's like hard to kind of balance everything. I think that's definitely one as well. But there's definitely a lot more being done. I've noticed like even over the last few years, like you can see like more open conversations about like barriers and like how to overcome them as well, which is really positive. So my next question is, what advice would you give to a young person wanting to get involved in sport, but who might struggle with confidence?
So my advice would be stop thinking about the big stuff and start on something really, really, really small. I didn't come up with this the picture, but something I kind of would use regularly about the idea of like development of stuff. So if you're trying to build a car, don't start with a wheel because you can't travel on a wheel. You can't do anything with a wheel. Start with a skateboard, start with a scooter, and then move to a bike, move to a faster bike, to a motorbike, and then to a car. Start small and build up from there. So if you're struggling with your confidence, whether that's to do with maybe your perceived ability, I can relate to that. Somebody who wasn't very good at football but had to sort of experience that. I thought about, okay, well actually what parts of myself do I feel confident in? And I knew that as a basketball player, I've always been quite speedy. Okay, so how can I kind of bring that into football scenario? So then that kind of dictated a little bit if I had to play where I played. So I played wing up front. So I realized that I was never a really good defender, but if I'm going forward and I've got speed, I can maybe alleviate that. So I'd almost like look within yourself and go, what parts of myself am I confident in? Am I somebody who's really confident in about the way I think, or that I listen to people and kind of from that sort of think about how can you apply that to sort of perceived scary situations being thrown into the deep end and kind of almost just break it down a little bit rather than this is mishmash of stuff that I can't do and I can't do anything. I'm yet to meet a young person, and we've supported young people facing all sorts of different things. And I've been doing this all my life, who once you can unlock that little bit of sort of what makes you you, the rest follows. And I'm yet to meet a young person who, if you can give them that time and space, if you can support them to just understand what is that little, it's that little spark, that's all it is. It won't encourage them to take that next step to the next step to the next step. So I'd say look within yourself, look at the small things because you're good at some stuff. And that's your secret sauce. That's the stuff that other people aren't good at. You can worry about the footwork, the ball handling skills, the ability to swing a racket. You can worry about that later. But like those little simple things, look within yourself, getting caught up in then this bigger thing than it actually is. And the good thing with that approach as well, Eden, I think, is that you might try something and go, oh, I thought I was really good at speed, but actually I'm actually not that fast. Okay, let's move to something else. And it allows you to kind of figure out lots of different skateboards. And then when you get the right one, you're like, okay, that's the bit I'm all about. Other than trying to like unpack this big thing of like, oh my goodness, I've got to do this thing. And then it's harder to do that again. So start small and sort of try things out often, essentially. I think would be my advice.
That's a great piece of advice. Thank you so much. I definitely agree. I think I went into Taekwondo wanting to compete, and then I felt, I'm not sure competing's right for me. So I then decided to go into coaching, and I think it's so good. There's so much flexibility within the different sports as well. So my last question is, what are you excited about, and what do you have upcoming for the rest of the 2025? What can you share with me?
Well, I'll start with uh, the charity perspective. And actually, I was just thinking about if I start talking something and I jinx something, maybe. So let me start charity. I think first and foremost, so we turned 2 years old in April. So we're going to our third year as charity. And actually, I think what I'm really excited by is the people of League Leaders, which you are part of, who what we're going to be able to achieve over the next 12 months. For anybody listening who has started anything themselves, you start this yourself. It is hard work, it's graft, but the satisfaction of doing it, and if you're doing it for even good cause, even better. So I guess I'm lucky in that sense. But I feel like we're just getting started, and I'm really excited by what we as a team can achieve. We've had quite a big influx of new people coming in, and winning funding to support that, and I'm just excited where we will go. To deliver across those three areas and to sort of help more young people. I'd say broadly, the people, the individuals. I'm not thinking of it as like the collective. Yes, as a collective, but like I feel like just seeing what you've done in the last year, and like I said, if we've played anywhere to near 1% part of that, that's what it's all about. So I'm really excited for that from a charity perspective. And then I think from a personal perspective, something I'm implementing this year is quite structured, regular breaks. So I've always been very good at switching off and have my own time. And I think this as well. Like if there's an emergency, I'm always contactable. But Otherwise, I might just take a few days to reply, or I need to have my weekend. But this year, I've sort of implemented sort of regular breaks that doesn't mean you have to have a holiday, but it just means you can have time off. And so I've just done every few months actually having some time off. So thinking about it in sort of 7 to 8 week chunks, and it's really helped me to really focus down on those 7 8 weeks, and then have that really rest, which doesn't necessarily mean just sitting on the sofa eating bad food. It's about being active and going for walks and stuff. But I'm really excited. Like, that's a big change I want to be doing in my life to support my health and my well-being. And I mean, nobody so far said you can't take time off because you're running a charity for young people and that stuff. So yeah, excited for that. So hopefully that answers your question. I skipped the football team thing just in case this is recorded and what I was going to say doesn't happen, and then I'm branded for life, which I don't want to do. So
Yeah, no, maybe not. Maybe best to avoid that. But I love what you said about like having breaks. I think that's really important. I'm like, yeah, very excited for what League Leaders does as well. I'll be seeing it firsthand, so very exciting.
you're part of the crew, basically. Yeah, it's you're responsible as much as I am, for sure.
Yeah. Um, well, that's all from me. Thank you so much for coming. It's been really good to have you on.
No, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the great questions. And yeah, hopefully, like, a couple of percent of that information is useful to those listening. And yeah, please, if you're interested in Legal Leaders, I have to plug it again. Please reach out if you're a parent, if you're a young person. Please reach out. If you're a partner or somebody who wants to collaborate, please reach out. We're really kind of changing tides on what it means to be putting young people first. So we do need support, but we also are very good at helping others. And so, please reach out. And you know what, like, to the young people as well, just take that step. Honestly, just send a message. And this is proof you're listening to Eden, who's involved with the charity. So at bare minimum, you get to interact with Eden, who's absolutely brilliant. So no, thank you so much. And I'll stop the plugging now. So yeah, I have to do it.
No, definitely. Thank you so much, Paul. Very exciting. And yeah, hopefully you can all come and join us at League Leaders because you will not regret it. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. It would be great if you could give it a follow and if you could give it a rating. If you want to connect with me further, you can find me on LinkedIn at Eden Byrne or on X at Eden71003.